Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. You know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. We love them in Canada, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 12th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's all wet and dandy up here. You know, we stayed up a little late last night watching the U.S. beat Mexico 1-0 in that soccer game, Charlton.
Yeah.
And I was expecting for somebody to eventually score a touchdown, but all we got was a single.
Yeah. I think it's funny when you said that the U.S. beat Mexico. I thought Trump said, yeah, we did get that wall. They did it behind his back, Big C. But no, he's talking about sports POTUS. So much happening in the world of the sports universe. I do want to say happy birthday to my son. He follows also Big C Sports. I want to wish him a beautiful, healthy, wealthy, happy life. So thank you so much, son. Love you very much. I do want to say there's a lot going on in the sports universe. We have, of course, you can buy basketball tickets for NBA. But just as you feel like you're at a sports smorgasbord, we have football, college football, NFL football, and baseball searching for the hunt for Red October. I do want to say this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, you ever buy a pair of shoes and you wear those shoes for maybe about a couple of weeks, and then the shoes, they come apart, Big C? I think we saw some NBA players dealing with that, where some shoes came apart on the floor. You know they're brand new. They rarely wear things more than once. Have you had that experience when you try to take the shoes back to the store and the store blames you for breaking the shoe, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, ironically, I had that experience last summer. I was out playing golf. I had a new pair of golf shoes. I won't name the shoe company, but they do have 3 stripes on the side of it. And you know, I'm out there, you know, using my driver, and it was a very heated day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my sole comes loose. Now, this is only the second time these shoes have graced my feet.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I go back to the store, and they said, well, you don't have the receipt for them.
Right.
And you didn't buy them in this store. Well, no, I had bought them gotten them in another state.
Yeah.
But, you know, I thought that you could at least run the number. I still had the box, and, you know, that barcode should come up where they came from.
Yep.
And show that they were purchased.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was so disappointed with the company that they would not honor my request. All I wanted to was the shoes replaced. You can see they didn't have any wear. I didn't want money. I just wanted a pair replaced.
Yeah. Did they give you the shoes back, or did they give you the business, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we're talking, ironically, I still have those shoes. You know, they came back all with me. You know, I guess when you deal with just the sales staff, they're going to say, well, we don't have the authority to make that decision, and the general manager or whoever was in charge of the store wouldn't come out to make that decision, Charlton, because if the product goes back to the company, to the distributor.
Yep.
They're going to give them a credit for it. You know, it's not like anybody's going to lose. You know, but in turn, you end up losing a customer because they end up going to another shoe company.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You gain more by just being great to the customers. I know a lot of people don't understand that as far as media is concerned. But if you ever have a pair of shoes when they break, you have a right to take them back. Speaking of shoes breaking, I was listening to some of the national media today. And, you know, we love sports and everything's fair in love and war. But you said something that was so prescient just about a week ago. You were talking about the Dallas Cowboys and how they'd have a lack of good receivers. They have a good quarterback in Dak Prescott, underpaid. I think he won like 22 games in his first 2 seasons. And now there are a lot of media saying, well, maybe they should have kept Tony Romo because the Cowboys, right now, they've lost their first game. No mentioning of the lack of receivers, Big C. It's like they're looking to turn on Prescott. He's not the one that signed the $100 million contract and can't win, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's ironic. You know, when you have an owner who has a problem when someone has success and he's not in charge of it. This goes back to the Jimmy Johnson era, Charlton, when Jimmy Johnson had won a couple Super Bowls. All of a sudden, he gets fired in the reign of probably having a dynasty running in the NFL.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's replaced by a yes boy in the next coach that he brought in, which out of Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he was gone soon. But then all of a sudden, you bring in Bill Parcells. The media is talking to Bill Parcells. You get rid of him, Charlton.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones can't take the media not talking to him. You look at Jason Garrett, he doesn't give press conferences.
No.
He may answer a question or two, but he doesn't give press conferences. And so he doesn't make the decision on the players. And when you look at what Jerry Jones has done as far as devoiding Dak Prescott of any quality receivers on the roster.
Yep.
I mean, when you look around the NFL and you ask defensive coordinators, you ask defensive backs, and they say, okay, Cole Beasley is the go-to receiver. And I'm not knocking Cole.
Oh, no.
He's getting the best out of his ability as he can as a professional athlete. And risen to the upper echelon to be able to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he's not putting the fear in defensive coordinators. They're not game planning for him. Defenses can play him man-to-man, and Carolina did that, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you play man-to-man defense and you only have 3 receivers in your set, understand, you got 8 men in the box.
Yep.
And when you got 8 men in the box defensively, Charlton, that allows the defensive coordinator to really, go into a buffet, and I know everybody's been to a buffet to eat.
Yeah.
You just can't decide what you want to put on your plate next.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like when you face the Dallas Cowboys offense as a defensive coordinator. You got 8 men in the box.
Yep.
They got 7 trying to block those 8 at max, really 6.
Yeah.
So you can come at this guy in any kind of way. When your offensive line is not 100%, the running game is not going to be there consistently.
Yeah.
So you can come after Dak Prescott. He is not going to have the time to sit in the pocket, to go through the progression of receivers. And that's what we look at. If you look at that New Orleans-Tampa game, Charlton, over the weekend, those quarterbacks had an opportunity to go through that progression of receivers.
Yeah.
That's why they were able to get the ball downfield. You showed me one time in that game, Charlton, when Dak Prescott threw the ball 35 yards down the field. He didn't have that opportunity. And in the NFL, when you can't do that, Charlton, you're not going to win.
No, we know that. It's just funny how there are times, and you were saying this too, because I call it the Great White Hype, and it's just a series. I was reading a lot of Michael Eric Dyson, and I also read a lot of other people that talk about race and how a lot of people just won't come real with race. But there's a paradigm, and I just want to follow up yesterday because there's a Hall of Fame broadcaster that I met up with not long ago in a movie set, and we were just talking about things, and he said the trick in broadcast is you got to make people think that what they see is not what they saw. You got to make them see what you want them to see. And what a lot of media pundits want you to see is behind center. They want to see the Caucasian persuasion, and the NFL has been like that for a long time. So even when the guy like Dak Prescott, who's been excellent for the Dallas Cowboys, they're trying to write him as if he's a Josh Allen. And it's not fair, but Big C Sports will check everybody, even ourselves. We say, Google the people that tell you that garbage and just pull up the record, okay? He has a better record as an NFL player than even John Gruden has as a coach as far as winning the percentage of his games. I want to take you way up to the northeast, and before we even do that, I'd be remiss if I did not say this. I know you're down south. A lot of the East Coast is being, I guess, evacuated. And just watching some of the news today on the weather channels, they're telling people, if you haven't already gotten out, it might be too late, but at least you got to let people know where you are. And no matter how many times these natural disasters happen, whether it's a storm or hurricane or whatever it happens to be, there's always those people who say they're going to pray as opposed to heed the warning. God can't save you if you're under 30 feet of water. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Carlton, the swell from the ocean is going to be tremendous, and even the rainfall in some places are going to get up to 20 inches, Charlton, which is going to cause devastation within itself.
20 feet.
We've had rain since yesterday here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you heed the warnings of what the National Weather Bureau tells you, Charlton, is that you can replace anything but life.
Yeah.
Everything that's materialistic, you might not be able to replace the exact memorabilia that you have, Charlton.
Exactly.
But you can never replace the life that will be lost.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Charlton, that may happen in this situation because you have people not willing to leave. And Charlton, one of the things that people need to always understand is that everybody can't afford to leave financially.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the biggest problem we have in America. When they say heed the warning, is that the aid is not there from our national government to get people out of harm's way initially. When we think about FEMA, FEMA has to be there to help people before the storm happens. I mean, to be able to give the people the supplies they need.
Yep.
Think about people who are on minimal income stuff. Can they afford the gasoline? Can they afford the extra food to travel with? Can they afford the housing when they leave town? Can they afford a hotel? And a lot of these shelters are full. So when we think about people heeding the warning, don't look at the fringe part of it, Charlton. Look at the crux of it. All people are not financially able to leave the danger zone, Charlton, when these crises come about. We think about Puerto Rico, which is still devastated. Those people could not leave the island, Charlton. They couldn't get away. They couldn't buy airline tickets to get out of there. They couldn't get on a cruise ship.
That's true.
And when we look at some of these low-lying areas on the East Coast, Charlton, all of the people, if you don't live right on the water line, Charlton, right on the ocean, you don't all have the money to get yourself out of town, to load up your family, Charlton. You think about a lot of people who survive on city transportation. They don't have a car to get in, to go elsewhere. They can't go to a rental car center and rent a car. They may not have a credit card.
Yeah.
So the FEMA and the federal government, Charlton, really needs to be in place long before the storms hit, to be in to assist those people, Charlton, who don't have the financial means to evacuate an area.
Yeah, and I hope that people have heeded those warnings. Again, we're out here in California, and we don't have flooding. In fact, we hardly have any water, but we do have too many fires have broken out, and unfortunately there was a fire up in Napa where it swept through in the middle of the night, and people were in their sleep when it happened, so that was a tragedy. But most of the time they can find some way to get out with the help of everybody. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with everyone, but please, if you can, I know if you can't, you just got to pray, but if you can, help your neighbors if you can. It's a great cause. It's a great country if we all reach out and help each other. I do want to jump back into the NFL. I got to jump because I can't afford to pass. It might get picked off up in Buffalo, Big C. Josh Allen will make his start tonight. I just got to ask it. He was 6 of 15 for Buffalo in week 1. 6 of 15. If my math is right, that's less than 50% passing, and now he's starting. Now, for the people who are saying Dak Prescott down in Dallas, who's won 22 games in his first 2 seasons with the Cowboys, America's team, there are some pundits on TV saying that maybe he's not the answer for the Cowboys with 22 wins on his belt. Well, Josh Allen doesn't have any wins. In fact, he has 6 completions and 15 attempts, and they're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know one guy's African-American, one guy's Caucasian. People say it doesn't matter, but Tim Wise, who's a white man, says it does matter. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you really got to wonder what matters in Buffalo. You know, Nathan Peterman in 2 NFL starts, he's completed 10 passes, and he has 7 interceptions. So, I mean, he has a 10-7 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah.
And so you say at the start of the season that Allen wasn't ready. So you started Peterman.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to understand how did Allen all of a sudden become NFL ready after going 6 for 15.
Yeah.
And a couple of interceptions tossed in there also, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has talked about the woeful Browns for the past couple of years in the NFL and how, you know, the coach should lose his job and shouldn't be around. They've turned the corner in Cleveland.
Yeah.
They've also turned the corner in Buffalo, Charlton. They displaced Cleveland as being the worst team in the NFL.
Yep.
It's ironic that you had a team that made the playoffs last year, Charlton, with a 9-7 record. You get rid of everything that was good about that team, Charlton. You get rid of the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
You benched him during the season last year, and then you get rid of him in the offseason. You couldn't pay Tyrod Taylor, Charlton, $12 to $15 million to groom this kid Allen for a couple of years, Charlton, and that was a low-wage NFL starter.
Yeah.
$12 to $15 million.
Yep.
You couldn't see that in the organization. They get rid of 3 of the offensive linemen, Charlton, that were blocking for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't even recall seeing Shady McCoy in the game, Charlton. And the receiving core, if Dak Prescott had the receiving core that they have in Dallas, Dallas probably would have beat Carolina in that game on Sunday.
Yeah.
There's some quality receivers in Buffalo, but you don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball to him, Charlton.
You know, I love...
Allen struggled in every 3 levels of football that he's played, actually every 4 levels.
Yeah.
He struggled in high school. He struggled in junior college, Charlton. He struggled in Wyoming. He has not in his lifetime been a 50% passer. But your best friend Mel Kiper said he's a can't-miss quarterback in the NFL, and he has this huge arm.
Yeah.
He also said that about Jamarcus Russell when the Raiders drafted him, Charlton.
Out of LSU, yeah. So I just want people, again, I just, for Big C Sports, it doesn't matter if you like what we say. We just want you to like Google. Because if you Google it, you keep everybody honest. Don't believe the hype of everybody. Who was it? Was it Flavor Flav that said, don't believe the hype? Okay, I don't sing like Flavor Flav. I had a gold chain like Flavor Flav, but it made my neck turn green, so I don't know if the gold was really real, Big C. So I thought I was the Incredible Hulk. My neck turned so green. I bought that from I think I was at a Subway over in New York. Some guy sold me a gold chain. My whole neck turned green in about 2 days, Big C, so I got rid of it. But I think, again, for everyone wanting to say, who do you trust? Who do you turn to when you want the truth? Well, some people turn to the Bible, and they believe the Bible is true, but I know there's some missing pieces to it also. And there's some people turn to their best friend. Their best friend, you ever have a best friend that knows some of everything, but never accomplishes anything, but he knows everything, BC? And then there are those who turn to Google, because Google's non-partial. And I just want every athlete to have the same opportunity to get criticized and praised. I want every sports talk show to get criticism and praise based on the facts. That's why we're the only show that would say Google what we say, and we do it freestyle. I'll throw it to you, Big C. When Allen gets praised for being 6 of 15 for Buffalo, and they're wanting to believe in this guy, what is the antipathy for Prescott? All he's done is win down in Dallas, and they've taken his receivers away. Is there something going on that maybe the mainstream media doesn't see, or maybe they see it and we don't see it? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he looks a lot like them. That's what they see, and they don't want to see him fail. But when you think about the Buffalo Bills, Charlton, since 2004, they've drafted 3 quarterbacks in the first round.
Yeah.
And they drafted J.P. Losman in 2004. They drafted Emmanuel out of Florida State I believe it was in 08.
Yeah.
And now they've drafted this kid, Allen.
Josh Allen.
None of these quarterbacks have had any success in the NFL, Charlton. None of them. And so it lets you know that when you're desperately seeking it, when the guys, your friends, say, this is your franchise quarterback. Now, this is the 3rd franchise quarterback that they drafted in the first round in the 14 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now Aaron Rodgers has been around that long.
Yep.
And Tom Brady. And they haven't drafted anybody in the first round.
No.
With those guys hanging around in the league, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you sit there and say that you're desperate for a quarterback, Dak Prescott was drafted in the 4th round.
Yep.
When the Dallas Cowboys drafted him, Charlton, I believe they had won 5 games the year before.
Under Romo, yeah.
5 games. And under Tony Romo. And other guys, Kellen Moore and Matt Castle.
Yep.
They couldn't win a game. And I think Brandon Whedon might have been in there for one of those games also, Charlton.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills went to the playoffs, Charlton, and they traded up to draft this kid because the guy that took them to the playoffs, the black quarterback Tyrod Taylor,
yeah,
wasn't good enough to keep him in that position, they said.
Yeah.
And so when you trade up to draft a guy, Sam Darnold is not going to strike twice this year, Charlton. He's not. He got off with a
they played Detroit. They played Detroit, okay?
And I think that the Buffalo Bills said, well, we're in the same state. But they're not playing the Detroit Lions this week, Charlton.
No. And I hope Sam does well. But again, Google it. If we're wrong, then just don't listen to what we're saying. But at least trust Google. Because I love the game so much, I want to keep it honest. I want to keep it real. That's always important, to have the integrity of the game, not controlled by media, like my Hall of Fame broadcaster who was doing this thing for about 50 years told me. He said, Charlton, they got to make you believe that what you saw is not what you saw, because there's a media slant and they have an image that they got to upkeep. Let's think about performance, Big C. When you look at the best rookies in the NFL in week 1, you look at Denzel Ward at Cleveland, 2 interceptions. You look at Saquon Barkley for the Giants, 106 yards. I know he had 1 long rushing yard. But just give me your thoughts on those 2 players and how they will make a difference in their teams, whether it's Ward with Cleveland or Barkley with the Giants. Big C, your thoughts?
Denzel Ward was the 2nd first-round draft pick of the Cleveland Browns out of Ohio State. So he was a hometown kid, Charlton, performing in front of people that he knew and knowing how to play in that type of climate. But he came from a winning environment, Charlton, so he is still undefeated when you think about being in the NFL. and he played very aggressive defensively. You know, people will look and say, well, you know, the Browns got lucky. No, Pittsburgh got lucky, Charlton.
Pittsburgh did, yeah.
They hung on for the tie.
Yeah.
They were a team that was favored by a couple touchdowns, and the Browns weren't even supposed to be in the contest because you had Big Ben Roethlisberger. Anybody look at Ben Roethlisberger over the last 5 years, Charlton, in road games, he looks like Eli Manning.
Yeah.
You can't tell the two apart. They were drafted in the same year. But you can't tell the two apart in road games in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, you know, was as good as advertised when the Giants took him second overall.
Yeah.
He did have the long run of over 50 yards, Charlton. It got him over 100 in the game. But it did demonstrate the breakaway speed that he possessed. And against one of the best defenses in the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
So he's not a fluke, but he's not the savior either, Charlton. He can't block everybody for the quarterback. He can't make the quarterback throw the ball to his own receiver.
No, he can't.
He will be an asset to the Giants offense, but he won't be a savior for the Giants offense, Charlton.
Speaking of a savior, think of Broadway Joe. You know, back in the day, he was promising and guaranteeing a Super Bowl win. Even with bad knees, how do you guarantee anything, Big C? But he did it. So Sam Darnold, and again, loved him and hated him at times based on this turnover ratio. Had nothing to do with wanting him to succeed. I want everyone to succeed. But when you look at Darnold for the Jets, 16-22, a touchdown and an interception, that pick six. And then you look at Mike Hughes, the cornerback from Minnesota. He did not allow a reception. That's understated because oftentimes people focus on the quarterbacks. But when you're a DB and you don't allow a reception, and again, he was going up against Jimmy Garoppolo out of the 49ers, $137 million quarterback with 3 picks. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, the prodigal son, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason why the Patriots should have got rid of Tom Brady and kept him, because
yeah.
we saw the tale of two tapes on Sunday with what Tom Brady did, throwing touchdowns and, you know, leading his team to a victory. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he couldn't even complete a pass against a rookie defensive back, Charlton.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, you know, everybody has tape on everybody. Yes, they do.
Yep.
But they had time to study for Jimmy Garoppolo. And he went against a great defense. You think about the defenses that he played against in the latter part of last season, Charlton?
Yeah.
They were not the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings came out there and played defense against him, Charlton. They picked him off. They put pressure on him. They put him on the ground. And Hughes was a part of that. When you can't find an open receiver, the pass rush will get to you, Charlton.
Yeah. I think about this. You think about Billy Price, you know, as a great player, 250 yards, allowed 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, running back gained 95 yards on the ground. Think about Cincinnati has a hit and miss season, and I still think that great exhibition. I think it was when the big redhead Dalton went to Buffalo. They gave him a standing ovation because it was Cincinnati's win against Baltimore that gave Buffalo an opening for the playoffs. They gave him a standing ovation. So the people in Buffalo know football. But talk about with Price and Cincinnati, just your thoughts on what they're looking like so far. I know that a lot of people think that Marvin Lewis might be his last year. Win or lose, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, people don't always look at linemen, Charlton, when it comes to outstanding rookies. And Price is a center. He's a rookie starting center for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is the guy that's most critical on the offensive line, Charlton, because he's making all the adjustments for the offensive linemen. He's recognizing the blitz to help out the quarterback.
Yeah.
And you think about a rookie that comes in and starts from day one in the NFL at the most critical position on the offensive line. Everyone talks about Dallas and Fredericks, you know, how critical he is to the success of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened to Dak Prescott without having his starting center in the game. But Andy Dalton really benefited from having an outstanding young center, as well as Joe Mixon, who rushed for 95 yards in the game, Charlton. But Andy Dalton was able to outdo his predecessor on the other side, Andrew Luck, and come away with a victory for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just always great when you see the players prove it on the field, Big C. When you look at quarterbacks that were drafted in 2004, Eli Manning, he was number 1. He was supposed to be with the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers went number 2 to the Giants. Contrast both of their play right now when you look at Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. I mean, I like Eli, his presence in New York, just because they've given him such the benefit of the doubt for everything he's done. But as far as being successful, he has a lot to prove because At some point in time, if you keep leading your conference in interceptions, your team's going to turn on you, Big C. Your thoughts on Manning and then Rivers? Which one is really giving their team the best opportunity to win?
Well, Charlton, if you think of these two quarterbacks are in different cities, think about the clout that Phillip Rivers would be carrying right now with the way that he's playing, coming off a 400-plus yard passing performance in weekend one in the NFL. He passed for 200 more yards than what Eli Manning did, Charlton. He gave his team an opportunity to win.
Yep.
You got to look at what the Chiefs did against the Chargers. They returned a pick for a touchdown. They had a kick return for a touchdown. Eli Manning didn't even give his team a chance to be in the ball game, Charlton, when you look at the two. Both of these quarterbacks were drafted in the same draft, and they were swapped because Eli didn't want to play in San Diego. He has been fortunate enough to win 2 Super Bowls since being in New York, Charlton. But when you look at both of these quarterbacks' career right now at the tail end, Eli doesn't have much left. Phillip still has a strong arm in getting the job done in San Diego offensively.
Well, you see, sometimes when you have that seniority, it buys you some favor. And if you have a couple of Super Bowls, that also buys you favor. But I know Janet Jackson sang a song, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" And I think if the Pittsburgh Steelers start playing that song, then Big Ben might start to worry a little bit. I know that I've always liked the Steelers, the Steel Curtain, going way back to the days of Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw, and of course Franco Harris, them good old boys that won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, Big C. But if we tell people to Google it, Big Ben Roethlisberger has thrown 8 interceptions in his last 2 games. Yet people are saying Dak Prescott is the one that's maybe not giving the Cowboys what they need. Prescott hasn't thrown 8 picks in the last 2 games. Big Ben did 5 at home, and to be fair, he did 3 on the road. That's still averaging 4 picks a game. If you're averaging 4 picks a game, Big C, they've lost those 2 games. Actually, they tied with Cleveland, but it's really a loss when you throw 3 picks. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the receiving corps that he's been blessed with to have, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the past 5 years in the NFL, Charlton, has had an elite core of receivers up and down the line. I mean, second to none from top to bottom. And Ben Roethlisberger has been the benefactor of that. He's had a tremendous running back with Le'Veon Bell, and in this last game, James Conner.
Yep.
Well, when you look at Dallas, Dak Prescott really has had a makeshift roster to deal with. In his rookie season, when Ezekiel Elliott was with him every down, Charlton, and not in jail or suspended, he had an outstanding offense. He had some good receivers. He had James Bryant.
Yeah.
He had an outstanding tight end in Witten. But when you look at the Dallas dismal roster right now, they lost receivers. They lost 2 receivers, critical receivers in the offense, Charlton.
Yeah.
They lost 2 starting offensive linemen. So you're blaming Dak Prescott because the team doesn't surround him with adequate tools. Jerry Jones is tight on the purse string.
Yeah.
He knows what the team's needing, Charlton. But he's saying, well, Dak Prescott has to do it all. He has to do more running, and he has to do more throwing. Which one he has to do more of, Charlton? You're not saying that you have to get him more receivers to catch the balls that he's throwing.
Yep.
You're not saying that you got to get him better offensive line protection. But you're saying all the problem is on Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
So as an owner, coach, general manager, water boy, you need to figure out what your responsibilities are. Get the guy who is pulling the trigger some adequate help. And you look around the NFL, and you tell me, other than Oakland, who has a worse receiving corps than the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I think that's a very good point. I remember back in the late 90s, I was at the Coliseum, and it was John Gruden had just coached the Raiders in a game against Kansas City, and they had lost. And I was speaking to one of the GMs of the Kansas City Chiefs in their locker room after the game. I can't recall his name, but he's since passed on. But I remember watching the late Al Davis, who was reading John Gruden the Riot Act. And for what reason, I don't know. But when I heard John Gruden say in the press conference, who's 81-81 outside of the Super Bowl team that he had under Tony Dungy for Tampa Bay, you can Google that too. But he said, well, we didn't have a pass rush against the Rams. Well, he doesn't realize he gave away the best defensive guy, at least in the AFC, either he or Von Miller. But you look at also back to these quarterbacks. J.P. Lossman was number 22 for the Bills drafted back in 2004, Big C. And sometimes the past comes back to you. Does any of these quarterbacks that we've talked about, Do they have anything left to get to a Super Bowl? Coming into the season, you would think it'd be Phillip Rivers, maybe Big Ben Roethlisberger because of their favoritism of having been there before. But Big Ben doesn't look like he's taking the Steelers anywhere, Big C. Any one of these give you any hope that they can reach the promised land, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I thought the Chargers might have the best shot in the AFC West if any of those teams were going to be productive because Ben Roethlisberger's numbers have been on the decline. And with Le'Veon Bell not being in the lineup, Charlton, as I stated in yesterday's show, it allows defenses to play a lot more cover too, Charlton. You don't have to man up and account for it. James Conner did a marvelous job of running the football. As a matter of fact, led the NFL rushing first week of the season. But he's not that receiver out of the backfield yet that Le'Veon Bell is. A lot of times the Steelers would put Le'Veon Bell in the slot, which was a huge help for Ben Roethlisberger. Now he doesn't have that extra security blanket, Charlton, sitting out there with Le'Veon Bell, and he's not the mobile quarterback that he once was. Ben used to just know how to slide in the pocket, but he took a huge amount of hits versus the Cleveland Browns in Game 1, Charlton. He's not going to get any more mobile as the season goes on.
Yeah. That's true, and I hope he stays healthy. I want everyone to stay healthy, especially seeing what happened to Aaron Rodgers and then coming back like the great Willis Reed. So we look at football, Big C, NFL style. Who would be your top teams of the week in the NFL, say week 1? As far as your thoughts, would it be Patriots, maybe the Rams? Just give me your thoughts on that, Big C.
Charlton, in this first week of the NFL season, I really like what the New England Patriots did. You talk about power rankings. They don't do anything to hurt themselves. You know, Bill Belichick gets players that are coachable.
Yep.
He doesn't have egos. I mean, when you look at his predecessor, Patricia in Detroit on the sideline, none of the players wanted to deal with him. But everybody listens to what Belichick has to say. And then I go to the Los Angeles Rams, Charlton. They showed me a lot, having all those new bodies on the roster and coming out in Game 1 and handling the business against the Oakland Raiders in Oakland, Charlton. They were just a very dominant team offensively and defensively. A team that's going to shock a lot of people, Charlton, that I have them ranked this high would be the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, really?
And people say, well, you know, Joe Flacco just played above himself. No, Joe Flacco is playing because he knows he has pressure behind him.
Yeah.
And he has a tremendous defense to hold its own. All he has to do is put some points on the board, Charlton, and he's going to have a tremendous team. Another team that will shock people, Charlton, up in the I-95 corridor is the Washington Redskins.
Oh, yep.
They were rejuvenated offensively. When you think about Alex Smith, a quarterback that wants to be there. They've had a quarterback for the last 2 years that didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But they have a quarterback now that wants to be there and who is a leader. And teammates recognize that, Charlton. Adrian Peterson came in and gave him a big hand, gaining 96 yards on Sunday.
He was amazing.
A team that I like, Charlton, if they can keep their mojo going, outscored everybody in week 1. Tampa Bay. They gave up 40, but they scored 48 points, Charlton, and they got outstanding receiving core.
Yep.
And they can run the ball. You look at Cincinnati Bengals. They put it on Indianapolis, Charlton, over the weekend.
Right.
That's a team that's going to be there in the end. The Minnesota Vikings. Your cousin is going to have to be consistent.
He's not my cousin, man.
The one game sample of what he did.
Yeah.
But also the Denver Broncos. There's something about playing in that Mile High Stadium, Charlton, with that defense that they have that's going to give Case Keenum a lot of help as this season goes on.
Well, let me get your thoughts then, because a lot of times people look at the defending champions. And when we look at the defending champions, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't have as much of an offense. Their defense is legit. They're off the hook. Really love the way they contain Matt Ryan. But I know they're going to have to find a way to get that offense flowing again. Nick Foles had a great game. In fact, Super Bowl MVP last year. Hasn't found his mojo. Maybe you good up boys need to send some of the relaxation that you guys grow down south, Big C, or that you pour down south, and send it up to Philadelphia. It is a city of brotherly love. What can help them get their mojo back, because they're playing on offense like they have the Super Bowl hangover? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they have a lot of players that are missing. When you think about what made them successful last year was that receiving core that they had. That receiving core is not intact from what they had last year in the Super Bowl.
No.
LeGarrette Blount is no longer in the backfield, starting the games at running back. So there's some changes made offensively, and it takes a while for people to get together. But, you know, luckily enough, they're in the Eastern Division. Who's the challenger?
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas and Washington is the second-best team in that division right now. And right now they played a little better than what Philadelphia did in Game 1. But Nick Foles needs to get back to the way that he was. And if you think about it, when he came in, Charlton, the first couple of games last year for Carson Wentz, he didn't light the world on fire.
No, he didn't.
It really took him to get to the playoffs for him to become an outstanding quarterback. When the pressure was on, he performed, and the pressure is going to come soon for him, Charlton.
Well, I know a lot of people, they automatically want to say that one team is a can't miss. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and girls and boys sports is the foundation of this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're approaching a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. I'd be remiss if I did not mention Aaron Rodgers. There's something about Green Bay and Lambeau Field, even if they're not the choice to come out of the NFC, just that the history of it. It's almost, I guess you could equate it to the LA Coliseum, because it's a place that they should never tear down. A lot like Soldier Field in Chicago, that's a place they should never tear down. They should only renovate it. I love what Green Bay brings, but is it, I mean, to have them come back from I think a 24-point, they were down 20-0 against the Bears, came back and won that game. Are they a top team in the NFC, or is it just because they're going to hype Aaron Rodgers, who's good, but Aaron Rodgers had a 20-yard throw that turned into a 75-yard touchdown pass, and they said, what a pass by Rodgers. The guy who cut the ball made like 5 people miss. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Aaron Rodgers has to stay healthy, Charlton, for them to be one of the top teams. When you look at how well and how bad Chicago played in that game at times, Charlton, but you got Minnesota in that same division. That, you know, if your cousin does well, they're going to be okay. Aaron Rodgers has to stay healthy for Green Bay to be successful. We saw what happened when he went down last year against Minnesota, Charlton.
Yeah.
Now they're going to bring him out and potentially play him this week against Minnesota, Charlton, when he has his gimpy knee with a ligament strain. I know you can brace it up, and like I said, you got to take the needle and go out there and tough it up.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're going to have to throw a lot of quick passes. They're going to have to keep him in the pocket. That mobility won't be there, and if that happens, Charlton, you can expect Minnesota to blitz him a lot if he plays this week.
Yeah, and I hope that Aaron can stay healthy. I mean, I don't think it would be asking too much if they held him out of one game. And just because of what you said, now people say he's an Iron Man, and he's a guy that plays with pain, but you need Aaron down the stretch more than you need him in the first part of the season. Remember Tom Brady, he was suspended for 4 games not too long ago, and the Patriots still came back because they had him healthy down the stretch, Big C. So I hope that they can just at least consider that. I'd love to see Rodgers stay healthy. I do want to just change the topic a little bit. When it comes to basketball and the storms that we're having, of course, on the East Coast, again, we hope and pray that everybody is safe as much as possible. But in the WNBA, the Seattle Storm went up 2-0 against Washington. The Mystics hope to finish out the series tomorrow night for the WNBA title. I know that women's basketball is fundamentally sound. It's not going to get the acclaim that the men's game gets because it hasn't been around as long. But when you want to learn how to play the game right, Big C, I think you learn more by watching WNBA basketball for fundamentals than you do watching the NBA, the guys that want to be on SportsCenter. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Seattle has just been a dominant team, Charlton, in this championship run. And they're playing that third game tonight in Washington. They moved it from the regular arena that they played in because they got some, renovations going. And that shows the disrespect for the ladies that are playing, Charlton, because you won't even hold off the renovations for them to play a championship game, Charlton, in that arena.
Yeah.
The Seattle Storm is just an exciting team. They got great wealth of talent. And when you look at fundamentally sound basketball, that's the WNBA, Charlton. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the prestige that the NBA does, Charlton. Even in the offseason, every NBA move, Charlton, is met with headlines.
Yeah.
Where the WNBA is like, it's an afterthought stories, Charlton, on all the sports shows.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame, but we'll always honor it on Big C Sports. Also, for the young women that play college basketball all around the country, where there's a program like a Stanford or like Tennessee, or, of course, you have UConn, you have Notre Dame, you have, South Carolina. There's a lot of great women's basketball programs out there, and I think those women benefit just because they can watch the women's game, WNBA, and they'll learn a lot more than just watching NBA basketball where guys tend to want to make the highlight reels. I do want to throw out something real quick when it comes to the world of Major League Baseball. The Boston Red Sox, they clinched the berth last night in baseball's playoff. We talk about tradition in baseball. When you think about tradition, you think the New York Yankees. You think the Boston Celtics for basketball. You think the Red Sox for baseball. You think the Patriots for football. There's something about that northeast region of the country where their sports teams, when they're relevant, the sport's more relevant. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you just think about the Boston region, period, Charlton, of how successful they are franchise-wise in professional sports. We see what the New England Patriots did last year, the Boston Celtics did last season. Now you have the Boston Red Sox, Charlton, already clinched.
Yeah.
At least the wild card berth. If they lose the rest of their games, they're guaranteed at least a wild card berth in the playoffs, Charlton. But they played at the top of the heap all year long, Charlton. They haven't taken any time off.
No.
Even knowing they had the best record in baseball and they had basically clinched their division with the Yankees being 8 games behind, they're not going to slow down any because they probably watched the Dallas Cowboys 2 years ago, Charlton.
Yep.
When they were 13-2, and all of a sudden the owner, coach, water boy, and equipment guy said, "I want to start this washed-up quarterback."
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden he puts this quarterback in, and the team no longer has momentum. Everybody used the excuse, well, Aaron Rodgers threw a perfect pass. Well, that perfect pass may not have been enough if that starting lineup had stayed intact the week before, Charlton, and their momentum hadn't been broken. So I look at that with the Boston Red Sox, not taking their foot off the gas, Charlton, not resting players, because players say, we got all off season to rest.
Yeah.
Let's get the job done that we started back in spring training.
Yeah, that's important. I love that part of the country. I love when I was at Fenway Park and just seeing how beautiful it is. That green monster really is an iconic figure. Just like in Chicago, they have Wrigley Field with the ivy growing on the field. And then there's so many other places. In Kansas City, you have the waterfalls in the outfield. In San Francisco, I think the most beautiful ballpark in the universe with McCovey Cove and the San Francisco Bay. Some places are just meant to see great baseball. Of course, Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, right there with the backdrop of downtown Los Angeles. And of course, all over the country, people have their thoughts too. But when it comes to seeing baseball in the hunt for Red October, when you look at the baseball playoff potential matchups, they could get to the World Series, the ones that you like to see, at least see. The Milwaukee Brewers versus Cleveland Indians. Something about Cleveland, they love their sports. Milwaukee's kind of the forgotten city. When you go to Wisconsin, it's usually Green Bay and that's it, but they have the Bucks and they have the Brewers. But does that turn you on as a series, the Brewers or the Indians getting in? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that would not be a very desirable city from the media perspective.
No.
When you look at it, having Milwaukee in there. But they're chasing down the Cubs right now. They're hot on the Cubs. They're only a game out against the Cubs. And so, you know, it's very critical. They have a series going on in Chicago tonight, Charlton.
Yep.
And it's very imperative if the Cubs want to be in there, which they've been America's darling for the past couple of years, ever since Joe Madden showed up, that they have to take this series away from Milwaukee, who has been red hot.
Yeah, they really have, Big C. When you think about another series, the Arizona Diamondbacks versus the Oakland Athletics. Now, I know Oakland is loyal to the Bay Area, but even the Bay Area is not as loyal to the A's. The A's are giving them hope that they're still going to be there, even though they're looking at building a new baseball stadium near Jack London Square near the water. So that Coliseum dirt that has championships in football, basketball, and baseball will soon become vacant when the Raiders go to Las Vegas and Golden State goes back across the bay to San Francisco. But the Diamondbacks, that's more of a golf community, and also they have NFL football is big there. Is that a series that would turn you on from a national perspective if we saw those two teams, the Diamondbacks and the A's? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, the only thing great about that series would be both of them are previous World Series champs.
Yeah.
When you look at the A's and Charlton, when you play in a stadium where you have to tarp off a stadium, because you're not getting the fans in there, that's not going to be appealing for baseball.
No.
Is that, you know, how do we fill up this stadium? Because if they haven't filled it up all year long, Charlton, what's going to make them start filling up even if you're in the World Series?
Yeah.
Because now those tickets are really out of price.
Yeah.
You know, when you're looking at that. So I think from that perspective, and both of those teams being on the West Coast, Charleston, it would kill that East Coast audience because not many East Coast people know about either one of the teams.
Yeah, well, think about this then. The Colorado Rockies versus the Boston Red Sox. We talked about it earlier. Baseball's better when we have those East Coast teams, whether it's the Yankees. I won't say the Mets as much because they're always the backdrop. They're ancillary to the Yankees. And it's great when Boston's in there. Boston and Colorado, I think it could be a good series for seeing home runs, but I don't think it's a sexy series. I'll get your thoughts on it, but I'd rather see Boston or New York versus Los Angeles or perhaps even Houston again. But I also won't look past seeing the Atlanta Braves. I think there's some great teams in both leagues, but I would love to see Boston or New York playing maybe the Dodgers more than Colorado. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, if you get the Rockies in there, Charlton, you might get a game or two delayed or postponed because of snow.
Yeah.
And so that's going to slow down the progress of the World Series. You know, Boston, it would be the right opponent for anybody in the World Series that would come out of the National League, Charlton. They're going to be worthy of whoever shows up, whether it's Milwaukee, you know, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Colorado, Charlton, the Diamondbacks. You know, this is a team that is fought to be the best team all year long in baseball, Charlton. So it's just going to be a matter of who shows up. And I do think that Boston will get there, Charlton, but it's going to be a matter of who shows up from the National League, who's hot through September.
Well, let me get more other thoughts. We talked about having certain teams in there. Baseball is great when people can get into the history of it. When you think about Boston, they're just one of those great franchises. But if we look at the Cubs, they also rival Boston. I think about one of those matchups that we talked about in the past, the Chicago Cubs versus the Boston Red Sox, that hunt for Red October. The Cubs have so much history. The late Harry Carey taking me out to the ball game, and then them good old boys in Beantown, they love their Red Sox. Big C, with that, I think for media, that would be a sexy matchup. Big C, your thoughts?
That would be the most attractive matchup, Charlton, in all of baseball. If you had the lovable Cubs and Boston, you're the two most iconic teams left in Major League Baseball, Charlton, two historical sites that you would have fanfare from both of those facilities, Charlton. And both of those teams have won World Series recently. And they've both been on top of Major League Baseball. They have that fan appeal. They have that media appeal, Charlton. You know you're going to have a packed house every night.
Every night.
A hard fought for seat.
I tell you, Atlanta Braves versus Oakland A's. I love seeing baseball. And I'm out here on the West Coast. It'd be easy to go cover the A's. And I know it may be anathema to say it, but let's just be honest. If you're coming to the Bay Area to watch a baseball game, I know the Giants are down this year, but for fanfare and for giving fans what they want, I know the Coliseum has been home to 3 World Series championships, but we're going back in the day, Big C. And if we saw the Atlanta Braves, which have the new technology stadium down there in Georgia, versus the Oakland A's, that would be a great story for the East Bay and the A's, but it wouldn't be great for baseball. And I'm ashamed, not necessarily ashamed, but baseball should not allow tarps on top of a stadium. It looks tacky. It's like your neighbor that works on his car in his front yard, Big C, and he got oil stains on the grass, and he got rims sitting out on his front yard, Big C, and you get your yard wall manicured. That's what that tarp looks like. If you can't sell it out, give the tickets away. There are a lot of kids in the East Bay. I would not want to see an Oakland A's Atlanta Braves World Series just because the optics. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the optics nationally, Charlton, when you look at it, you're going to have two teams, one from the middle of, southeast of the country, Charlton, and another from the West Coast that doesn't sell. And I don't think that either one of these teams have had a sellout all year long, Charlton. It's been a long time since we've seen the Braves in the World Series, since Bobby Cox was the manager. And so that luster that you want from the World Series, you want electricity.
Yeah.
You want cities that really appreciate it. And we keep bringing the A's into this equation, but they've had an outstanding season, Charlton, and they have just as much chance of getting there as anybody, as well as the Atlanta Braves, who have dominated, their division, Charlton. They've been in first place all year long and up by a couple games now.
Yeah, that's very, very true, Big C. So we know baseball's great. Everybody loves the long the long ball. We can talk about pitching. And what really makes people want to come out to the ballpark, it's always about home runs. But also, I want to make sure that when we have baseball, it's important to see the optics. It's a great game. And if you can't sell out your tickets, just give some tickets away to young kids. I'm sure a lot of kids would love to come out and see it. It'd be a great gesture by any organization. And speaking of gestures, you know, Nike was a stroke of genius with the Colin Kaepernick advertising campaign. For his 30th anniversary, just do it, as we always tell you, Big C. It's been reported that Nike should sponsor Big C Sports because we're the #1 sports show in the universe. Nike, hear that loud and clear. They received some $45 million worth of free advertising alone last week, and a black man did it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, for all those Colin Kaepernick and NFL haters, think about what you did for Nike.
Yeah.
You know, you gave them the best platform that they could ever ask for, Charlton. And when people saw the ad, and you didn't look at it from a racist perspective, you saw the quality that was put into it by Nike, Charlton.
Yeah.
How poignant it was about people, not being selfish. That's what that ad spoke about. It spoke about bringing out the best in Americans. That's what Nike's campaign with Colin Kaepernick is all about.
Yeah.
And all of the media that wanted to be negative about it, Charlton, they just opened up their purse strings for Nike.
Yeah.
$35 million in free advertising.
Yeah.
You realize, I mean, what companies would not beg to get $45 million in free advertising? Anybody.
Yeah.
And it was led by Protus.
Yeah.
He opened it up. He didn't realize how much he was helping Nike. So, they're going to take a beating. Well, they got $45 million in free advertising. So
that's a beating.
What their stock
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
They didn't have to spend $45 million on advertising last week.
No, that's great too. But something that was a little bit troubling that I got to bring it up because we follow AAU, and there's a lot of kids. It's a diverse league. There's a lot of kids that want to sharpen their skills and go to the next level. And high school basketball is not played year round. But what I see is a lot of diversity. When young people, they get along. They don't understand racism because they didn't grow up being segregated. A lot of kids, I can't speak for all the regions of the country. I'm talking California. A lot of kids don't understand the pushback from a black man saying Black Lives Matter. Let's keep our kids safe. Let's end this criminal justice garbage that incarcerates black men at the rate of 7-to-1 to white men. And when you bring that to the nation's consciousness and the world's consciousness, people say, well, you're not American. You're antithetical to peace. You're against the military. We know that's garbage, and the young people know it too. So even when young white kids see, let's just be honest, you can Google it. When you see people burning tennis shoes instead of giving them to charity, that's usually mainstream doing that. And some of their kids, not their kids per se, but some of the white young children, teenage boys, watch that garbage and they feel embarrassed because a lot of the older people don't check the people who have that hatred. But I have a lot of hope for the new generation because a lot of young people, they also believe that all lives matter. And they're not out burning Nike shoes, Big C. They're proud to wear it. So how do we change that hatred in the minds of people that think that asking for Black Lives Matter to mean something to this country? They want to burn the shoes of the man who brought that to their attention. That just doesn't seem American, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's hate in vitro. You know, you would rather burn a pair of useful footwear than to give them to some needy person on the street. Think about the number of homeless veterans that we have on the streets of America, Charlton.
Amen.
And you would not seek out one of those homeless veterans to give those shoes that you wanted to strike a match and put lighting fluid on, Charlton. You felt that it was more valuable to burn a pair of sneakers than to give them to a homeless, jobless veteran in America. That's anti-American, Charlton.
Yeah.
But we have homeless people. I mean, you go through any major city in America, Charlton, and I do it all the time. And every time I'm in that area, I make sure that I pack extra food in my car so when I'm at a red light, Charlton, and somebody there is with a sign saying hungry, homeless, please help, anything, God bless, I'm putting down my window, Charlton, and I'm putting bags outside my window to feed somebody, Charlton.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that what type of shoes, and I see a lot of those people, Charlton, with Nike shoes on.
Yeah.
Newer sneakers than what I have on. But they say they're hungry and they want some help. And I have a little extra, Charlton, so I don't mind giving it. So when those people want to say that this is anti-American, anti-police, anti-military, think about how many first responders were injured in New York, Charlton.
Yep.
Police officers, firemen, paramedics, Charlton. How many people in New York are walking around to those people, Charlton, that families are in need now? How many of those are helping them? That's anti-American. That's anti-military because we have the National Guard in also, Charlton.
Yeah.
And so all those people who want to sit there and talking about being anti-American, anti-flag, anti-military, even the president, Charlton, how many of these people are you going to help? We have, you think about this, 911, 9/11, we just had the 17th anniversary yesterday. In 2 years, the Emergency Medical Fund will run out for the 911 victims, Charlton.
Yep.
That means their health care. All of them that received emergency health care, Charlton, will no longer be available.
Wow.
Because the tax cuts from our national government last year when the president said, well, I'm going to give you all the tax breaks.
Yep.
And I'm going to give a huge tax breaks to these corporations in America so they can make more money for their shareholders. That takes away from the fund from 9/11. So when we want to talk about being anti-American,
Yeah.
anti-military, anti-first responders, look at those Republicans that you voted for that are in charge of Congress that have the chance to renew that along with the president, and they're going to let it expire, Charlton.
You know, ironically, out here in California, when they were having the fires, there were firefighters that would stand in the middle of intersections, and they would have a boot, Big C, like a fireman's boot, and they would ask people for donations so they could buy shoes for people. Now, that's American. But for the people who are pushing this propaganda, let's not support anybody who believes in Colin Kaepernick's message of liberty and justice for all. And I know your kids are watching you, and they're saying you burn shoes. These firefighters could have used those shoes that you're burning to give to people that they're saving. So who's more American? The person saying, let's end injustice, domestic violence, assault, let's fix the criminal justice system? How is that un-American compared to the person burning Nike shoes? I just want to defend Phil Knight for a second here. I know there's two sides of the coin. People say Phil Knight's just grandstanding, trying to get more advertisers. What business person doesn't want more advertisers, Big C? That's why we're asking Phil Knight, sponsor Big C Sports. You can Google that, we tell you the truth. At the same time, everybody needs to be a leader or a follower. If you're one of the parents that's teaching your kids anathema for peace, anathema for equality, what are you anyway as a parent? Don't hide. If you're going to be bigoted, don't hide it. Be proud and put it on your forehead the same way the people salute the flag. They love this country. I just think talking about race and all the issues will make it better, not worse. You got to bring the bigots out of the woodwork and let them be proud of being a bigot. But if you're embarrassed for having your stance in the public, doesn't that tell you something, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the amazing thing about all these people who are making these negative comments is that they don't do it in the public. They do it behind closed doors. They do it with these tweets and texts and all that. Yes, we have a couple of negative news outlets, but they're always the same way regardless. They're negative. But, you know, when you talk about helping Americans, and all of these people who are blasting someone who's saying that we need social and justice reform in America, Charlton, they don't have to deal with that system. They don't get followed home by police officers.
Nope.
They're not worried about being shot in their car, Charlton. They're not worried about being shot in their backyard. And I'm not saying that every American is.
No.
But be honest about what we've seen. As you said, one sports broadcaster told you, you got to make people believe what they didn't see.
Yeah.
And we see so much of that on television in America. Going back to Rodney King, they made America believe what they didn't see.
Yeah.
That's what they did. And ever since Rodney King, when they proved that Kodak can tell a lie.
Yep.
And I say the word Kodak because that was the #1 film company in America for a long, long time. But they proved that Kodak could lie.
Yeah.
And if you can't trust your eyes, who can you trust, Charlton?
Yeah.
You have to trust the person who tells you something over and over that's not true.
That's so true. So we always tell you, no matter what it is, just Google it. Big C, I want to close out saying some of the big games in college football this weekend. Teams that will be eliminated from the playoff hunt. We know there's a big game. Used to be a big game. two top programs, USC and Texas. Not that they have a chance to compete for a national championship, but they can still hang in there for their conference championship. Also, a couple of other teams. I think maybe the second best team on the West Coast might be Boise State. They're at number 24, Oklahoma State. Number 12, LSU. They're at number 7, Auburn. That's going to tell you how good Washington is or isn't. And then you have Ohio State at number 15, TCU. Your thoughts on which one has the most to lose and which one has the most to gain, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, at that Ohio State TCU game, I mean, we know that Gary Barnett, the coach at TCU, has been a terrific defensive coach over the years, Charlton. He's put together some of the greatest schemes out there defensively. Urban Meyer, this will be the third game and final game without him being at the helm on the sideline as a head coach.
Yep.
Now, we know that the players were already in place at Ohio State, but when you look at Haskins, the quarterback at Ohio State, Charlton, who was accounted for 9 touchdowns in his first 2 college games, this is a big-time quarterback, Charlton, that Ohio State hasn't had since Cordell Stewart could throw the ball down the field, and Cordell Jones, excuse me.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, I think, is a class right now. You talked about that LSU-Auburn game, Charlton.
Yep.
Orgeron will never get any type of respect. Even if he wins the game, Charlton, there'll be excuses that somebody didn't play well against him. Auburn has to play a lot better than what they played against Washington to beat LSU in this game, Charlton. And you say that Boise might be the second best team on the West Coast.
Behind Stanford.
I'm yet to find a team that's better. Maybe Oregon.
Yeah.
I think that would be a tremendous shootout between Oregon and Boise. But this game down in Stillwater, Charlton, will not be easy against Oklahoma State.
That's a very good point. So in Big C Sports, we ask everybody to Google it, especially Phil Knight at Nike. Google it. Big C Sports will always keep it real. Everyone on the East Coast, please be safe. Heed the warnings. If whatever it is, check on your neighbors, and we hope and pray that everybody comes out as healthy as possible. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm really excited about Game 3 tonight in the WNBA Championship with the Seattle Storm and the Washington Mystics. The game is being played in Washington. Will the Mystics be able to will the Storm be able to pull off a sweep, Charlton, and their third consecutive win and take another championship back up to the Pacific Northwest for the WNBA Ladies Championship?
Well, we will definitely be watching it. We wish everybody well, and we wish that everybody learns to Google every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.